Prosecutors say the men ordered the 2018 killing of the 15-year-old who was stabbed to death outside of Bodega.
They killed a good boy, only 15 years old. He was a baby, he was a kid.
I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well. You know, if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting a chair.
They miss her and they ask about her every day. They wake up in the middle of the night crying for her.
This is where you will end up, with your family and friends crying as you're let out of the courtroom to serve the rest of your life in prison.
Enter the dangerous world of street gangs where violence and crimes are their bread and butter. But when these heartless gang members finally get caught and show no remorse or respect for the families of their victims in court, it takes evil to a whole new level. Get ready for some chilling stories where empathy is replaced by cold blood. This is the sad case of Alessandro Guzman-Feliz. In the summer of 2018, the brutal homicide of a 15-year-old boy deeply impacted the residents of New York City. His life was taken by local street gang members who, armed with knives and machetes, dragged the boy outside a convenience store in the Bronx and mercilessly took his life. The graphic video footage capturing the assault of Alessandro Guzman-Feliz, known as Junior, quickly spread online. Despite the overall decline in murder rates throughout the city, this incident was a terrifying reminder of the persistence of gang-related violence in certain parts of New York City. The police think that what happened to Junior was part of a bunch of violent attacks caused by a fight between two factions in a Dominican gang called the Trinitarios. The Trinitarios is an organized gang founded in the early 1990s by two Dominican men seeking protection while in prison. The gang has expanded into drug dealing and operates in Upper Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, and Long Island. Their weapon of choice, machete. The explicit video footage caused widespread shock and sparked discussions about the actual reasons behind targeting the teenager. The New York Times conducted an extensive investigation to understand the events of the night when Junior's life tragically ended. On June the 20th, 2018, security cameras captured Junior leaving his home in the Bronx around 10:05 p.m. to meet a friend nearby. At 11:32 p.m., he was seen heading towards Adams Place, a popular gathering spot for teenagers. The Trinitarios gang members spotted Junior and chased him, mistaking him for a rival gang member. They cornered him inside a bodega where Junior tried to hide, seeking protection. They then dragged him out and repeatedly attacked him with knives and machetes before fleeing. The motive behind mistaking Junior as a gang member remains unclear, although Junior's friends and the police stated that even though he was not affiliated with a gang, he did have acquaintances who were involved. The night before his death, Junior mentioned witnessing a Trinitario gang member stab another youngster on Adams Place, which may have led them to assume he was part of a rival gang, but who really knows? 8 members of the Trinitarios gang, namely Kevin Alvarez, Elvin Garcia, Antonio Rodriguez Hernandez Santiago, Joneki Martinez Estrella Jose Moniz, Jose Taveras, Manuel Rivera, and Daniel Fernandez were arrested and charged with first-degree gang assault and other related offenses. During the court trials, the defendants tried to dodge the bullet by blaming each other. Tight-knit group, I must say. But the overwhelming evidence against them undermined their defense. In June 2019, 5 of the defendants, Martinez Estrella, Muniz, Taveras, Rivera, and Fernandez, were found guilty of first-degree gang assault, while the remaining 3 were convicted of lesser charges. As a result, the 5 defendants were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, while the other 3 received sentences ranging from 23 years to life in prison. All those arrested have pleaded not guilty and showed absolutely no remorse in court for their horrific actions, and some even smiled and laughed during the trial. Junior's tragic death deeply affected his Bronx community. His face has been commemorated in murals and his funeral was attended by hundreds. According to his mother, he was a bright young boy with aspirations to become a detective one day. And even though the bodega owner could not save her son that horrible night, she later went out and publicly thanked him for being a hero. If you think the Trinitarios were cold-blooded killers, these next gangbangers can definitely top them. Abel Gallegos received a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole. As a bonus, he was also sentenced to additional 163 years for his involvement in the abduction and murder of Simone Duran, a 28-year-old woman and a mother of 2 young daughters. But the way he and his comrades did it and their motive motives are what's sickening. Gallegos, along with Alonso Quintana and René Francisco Rosales, were found guilty of multiple charges related to their participation in the retaliatory killing. The chain of events leading to Duran's murder began when she identified Quintana in a lineup during an attempted murder investigation in Adams County in early 2018. As a result, she became a target for Gallegos, Quintana, and Rosales. According to authorities, on November 5, 2018, Duran was lured, kidnapped, and while pleading for her life, was shot 10 times, and on top of it all, her body was set on fire. Gallegos initially contacted Duran through social media and arranged to meet with Rosales and others at a residence in Denver. Duran, Gallegos, and Rosales left the house together, with Rosales later returning home. Gallegos took Duran to a parking lot where they met Quintana. Quintana and Gallegos assaulted her and jammed her in the back seat of a car. Then they drove her to a secluded area where Quintana and Gallegos shot her in cold blood 10 times. Later, Gallegos and Rosales went back to the scene of the crime, poured gasoline on her body, and lit up the match. This was Gallegos' 6th felony conviction, and he had his parole or probation revoked 8 times in the past. During the sentencing, Judge Philip McNulty expressed his shock at the cruelty of the crime and the complete disregard for human life. When receiving his sentence, he didn't even flinch, showing absolute disregard for the victim and her family. Judge McNulty then added, "You can't live among us anymore." Just when you think humans cannot get any more diabolical, we meet our next gang fella from South Africa this time. On June 3, 2015, George Gabel Thomas, a notorious gangster from South Africa, received a sentence of not 1 but 7 life terms in prison. Born in 1963, Thomas grew up in Cape Town's infamous Cape Flats, an area known for its high levels of gang activity and violence. He was a member of the 28S gang, which was notorious for its brutal tactics and control over the drug trade in the region. Thomas's criminal journey began during his teenage years when he was initiated into the 28S gang. Over time, he climbed the ranks and became one of the most feared members of the gang. He was involved in numerous violent crimes, including assassinations, drug trafficking, and extortion. In 2006, Thomas was arrested and charged with the assassination of 7 individuals, including a 6-month-old baby.
Whoa.
He faced more than 50 charges and was sentenced to life in prison for each of these crimes. You might think that when in jail, his heinous crimes would cease to exist. Well, maybe for a normal criminal, but not this guy. Even while behind bars, he orchestrated 4 additional assassinations, showing his evil grip within the gang. Throughout the trial, witnesses testified and some even required bodyguards due to gang threats. Tragically, half of those associated with the case were silenced forever. He made over 30,000 phone calls from jail, including orders to put a hit on several individuals, including witnesses. Despite overwhelming evidence and witness testimonies, Thomas remained completely unfazed. Throughout the entire trial process, Thomas had an unbreakable smile on his face, showing zero care about his victims and their families. He was found guilty of first-degree crimes and is now facing the consequences of his actions. Thomas's sentencing was viewed as a triumph for the South African justice system, which had faced criticism for being too soft towards violent criminals. Hopefully, it also served as a warning to other gang members that their reign of terror would no longer be tolerated.